And last one from me. Earlier today, Islam Makhachev did an interview and said he's not ruling out coming back down to 155. But if it was up to you, would you rather fight him at 170 to get that third title, or would you be willing to fight him at 55 because that's the division that people say he might be the best at?
It would be much better for me to fight him in 170. And I will beat him and get the third title. That will be the best scenario for me.
Ilia Topuria has just thrown down the gauntlet, calling out Islam Makhachev for what could be the biggest fight in UFC history at the White House card. But hold on, Islam's legendary coach Javier Mendez has fired back with a clear warning message, exposing Topuria's weakness and sending a clear warning to El Matador. And wait till you hear what Topuria responded on Twitter. This is getting spicy. Let's break it all down. All right, let's set the stage. Ilia Topuria is riding the highest wave of his career right now. The Spanish-Georgian superstar made history by becoming the only undefeated double champion in UFC history, knocking out Charles Oliveira at UFC 317 to capture the lightweight title. Before that, he was the first man to ever knock out Max Holloway with strikes. The man is on an absolute tear with 17 consecutive victories. Speaking about the historic UFC White House card scheduled for June 14, 2026, Topuria didn't hold back. I want to fight Islam Makhachev at the White House. It would be one of the biggest fights in UFC history. No one has fought for a third title. Let that sink in, folks. A third UFC title. This would be absolutely unprecedented. Topuria continued with some serious respect for Makhachev. Islam finished his old division with complete dominance and changed weight classes, so I think it will be a huge, magnetic fight. But then came the warning to Islam. If Islam loses to Jack Della Maddalena at UFC 322, he can return back to Dagestan to his farm and continue herding sheep. But if he wins, I will definitely rise. Definitely, 100%.
ერთ-ერთი ყველაზე დიდი ბრძოლა იქნება, რაც საერთოდ UFC-ის ისტორიაში შემდგარა. მესამე ტიტულზე არავის არ უბრძოლია. ისლამამ თავისი ძველი დივიზია მთლიანი დომინაციით დაამთავრა და მერე წონა შეიცვალა, ასე რომ მგონია, რომ ანუ ძალიან დიდი მაგნიტუდის ბრძოლა იქნება, რაც UFC-საც და ჩვენს ყველას ვაწყობს.
Shots fired. Topuria just put everything on the line. He wants Islam at welterweight for a third championship. Now here's where things get really interesting. Islam Makhachev's legendary coach, Javier Mendez, the man who coached Khabib Nurmagomedov, Daniel Cormier, and Cain Velasquez to UFC glory, has been studying Topuria. And he's found something. Appearing on the No Time podcast, Mendez was asked how he would strategize against Topuria. His response? Pure coaching gold. First, Mendez gave Topuria his flowers. I would say with him, stay out of boxing range, 1,000,000%. He's got the best boxing in the business in MMA. He even thinks he can beat Terrence Crawford. That's how confident he is in his boxing.
I would say with him, stay out of boxing range. 1,000,000%. Stay out of boxing range. He's got the best boxing in the business and MMA. In MMA, he's got it so much that he even thinks he can beat Crawford. so that's how confident he is in his boxing. His boxing's good.
The best boxing in MMA. That's high praise from one of the sport's most respected coaches. But then came the bombshell revelation. Your big task is to keep him away from you. And he's got decent wrestling. From people I've spoken to who have trained with him, he's got decent jiu-jitsu also, so he's almost the complete package, but he's not.
But your big task is to keep him away from you, and he's got decent wrestling. And so he's also got, from people I've spoken to that have trained with him, he's got decent jiu-jitsu also. So he's almost a complete package, but he's not.
Wait for it. He lacks in the kicking area. The weakest link on him would be the kicking area, and then you have to test your grappling with him to see if yours is better than his. We've yet to see how great it is. It's not great, but we've yet to see how good it really is.
He lacks the kicking area. So the weakest link on him would be the kicking area, and then you have to test your grappling with him to see if yours is better than his. We've yet to see how great it is. It's not great, but we've yet to see how good it really is.
Boom. There it is. Mendez just exposed Topuria's game plan blueprint. Let me break down what Mendez is saying. Topuria's strengths. Elite boxing, best in MMA according to Mendez. Decent wrestling, decent jiu-jitsu, incredible knockout power. Topuria's weakness. Kicking game, limited. Untested high-level grappling. Mendez's strategy. Use kicks, knees, Muay Thai angles to keep distance, and test Topuria's grappling in deep waters where he hasn't been before. Now, you know Topuria wasn't going to let that slide without a response. This back and forth is exactly what the UFC needs. This fight sells itself. Let's talk about what makes this super fight so compelling. First, Islam Makhachev has to get past Jack Della Maddalena at UFC 322 on November 15th at Madison Square Garden. That's a tough test. Della Maddalena is no joke. He knocked out Bilal Muhammad to win the welterweight title. If Islam wins, Topuria has made it clear. He's moving up to 170 pounds for that third belt. But here's the twist. Dana White has mentioned Topuria might defend his lightweight title first at the UFC's debut Paramount event in January 2026, possibly against Justin Gaethje. So the path to this super fight isn't straightforward, but the desire is clearly there from both sides.
I wanted to talk to you. Obviously, you had a big week at the UFC. Some crazy stuff went down. With Ilia moving up to lightweight, vacating the title. You weren't able to announce it then, but is it safe to say that Ilia Islam is the fight that we're sort of working towards, or could he be fighting?
There's still other possibilities. So there's a lot of shit going on right now.
Yeah.
Let's break down how this fight could actually play out based on Mendez's revelations. Islam Makhachev's path to victory, following his coach's blueprint. Utilize leg kicks, body kicks, and work at range. Use Muay Thai clinch with knees. If the fight goes to the ground, this is where Islam has a massive advantage. His grappling pedigree from the Dagestani school is legendary.
Das sollte der Islam sein. Das war die große Sache. Aber er ist ins Weltergewicht aufgestiegen. Glaubst du, er wechselte ins Weltergewicht, um dich zu umgehen oder wegen seiner Ziele?
Weil er seine eigenen Ziele hat. Das ist meine Meinung. Denkst du immer noch, dass das ein Kampf ist, der stattfinden sollte? Ihr beide schmiedet Vermächtnisse in verschiedenen Gewichtsklassen. Denkst du, dass das ein wichtiger Kampf ist, der stattfinden sollte? Wir werden sehen, wie er sich im Weltergewicht schlägt. Wenn er den Titel gewinnt, gewinne ich den Titel im Leichtgewicht. Vielleicht steige ich auf oder er kommt ins Leichtgewicht und wir haben den Kampf, den jeder will.
I think there is a space for it. I have a little space here.
Ilia Topuria sent a clear warning message to Islam Makhachev, warning to Islam Makhachev, one so pointed, so specific, that it's making headlines across every sports network. At a press conference in Georgia, Topuria didn't just call out his rival. He laid down an ultimatum that could change everything. If Islam loses, he may as well go back to Dagestan, to his farm and continue shepherding his sheep. But if he wins, I'll definitely move up. Definitely. 100%. Those words aren't just trash talk. They're a calculated declaration with massive implications for the sport. This is the story we're leading with tonight, and it's going to reshape the landscape of UFC's biggest stars. Let's dig deeper into what Topuria is really saying here. This isn't casual trash talk. This is a fighter drawing a line in the sand, setting conditions that could determine the course of both their careers.
Last conversations about I had with the UFC, they personally asked me the favor, like, don't tell us after the fight that you want to move to the welterweight division. Made us a promise. And I was like, promise.
Were you crossing your fingers though?
Yeah.
Because that
I was
that
like, I swear to promise.
By telling Makhachev to go back to his farm if he loses, Topuria is saying one thing very clearly. If you don't become welterweight champion, you don't get me. You don't get this historic opportunity. This is psychological warfare at the highest level. Topuria is putting enormous pressure on Makhachev heading into UFC 322. He's essentially saying, your entire future with me depends on what happens in that cage against Della Maddalena. And here's the kicker. Makhachev knows exactly what's at stake. This isn't some distant hypothetical. This is real, and it's personal. The warning has been delivered. Now we wait to see how Makhachev responds. What makes this so significant? Topuria is chasing something unprecedented in mixed martial arts history, becoming the first fighter ever to hold titles in 3 different weight classes simultaneously. Let me break this down. Topuria already made history by moving from featherweight to lightweight, knocking out Charles Oliveira in a dominant first-round performance at UFC 317 in June. That victory wasn't just impressive. It announced to the world that Topuria's power and precision transcend weight classes. Now he's proposing a third act, a move to welterweight to face Makhachev, who would also be a champion. This isn't some fantasy booking. This is a fighter with a legitimate plan and the credentials to back it up. I think it would be one of the biggest fights in UFC history. No one has fought for a third title, and Islam has dominantly finished everything he needed to do in his division and then changed weight classes. I think it's a fight of a giant magnitude. Consider what we're talking about here. Makhachev, the pound-for-pound king, moved up to welterweight to challenge Jack Della Maddalena. If he wins, he becomes a 2-division champion. Then, if he faces Topuria, who would still hold the lightweight belt, we'd have an unprecedented champion versus champion showdown. We've seen double champs in the UFC before. Conor McGregor, Amanda Nunes, Daniel Cormier. But a triple threat? A fighter competing for 3 different belts across 3 different weight classes? That's never happened. That's the stuff of legends. The stage? The White House on June 14, 2026. A venue so historic, it would elevate this fight beyond anything the UFC has ever staged. This isn't just a title defense. This is a moment that would define a generation of fighters.
And then June 14th, next year, we're going to have a big UFC fight at the White House, right at the White House, on the grounds of the White House.
Now, Islam Makhachev hasn't been silent on social media. The former lightweight champion, preparing for his own title shot against Jack Della Maddalena at UFC 322 in November, took to Twitter with a response that's stirring the pot. While Makhachev hasn't directly responded to Topuria's ultimatum, insiders suggest he's acutely aware of what's at stake. If he wins in New York, he becomes a champion at 170 pounds. If he loses, according to Topuria, that historic White House showdown simply doesn't happen.
You said that you're ready to go up a division. There's a tweet from Ilia Topuria that he can go up the weight and he can beat you with no problem. What do you think about that?
Не знаю, еще столько соперников, и все хотят меня там в первом, во втором раунде финишировать, все говорят об этом. Но я же сказал, сделайте 70 килограмм, заходите в клетку и посмотрим, кто кого финиширует там.
There's all these opponents, they all say they want to finish me in the first or second round. I already said, if you can make 155, you can get into the cage. Let's talk about it then.
This is psychological warfare at its finest. Topuria is making Makhachev carry the weight of a potential trilogy on his shoulders when he steps into the cage. Here's where it gets complicated. Topuria still needs to defend his lightweight title before we even get to the White House. UFC President Dana White has hinted that El Matador could headline the promotion's debut on Paramount Plus in early 2026, potentially January. But Topuria's laser focus remains fixed on that June date at the White House. He's not interested in defending against just anyone. He's waiting for the biggest moment, the biggest stage, the biggest opponent. Potential challengers for his lightweight belt include Paddy Pimblett, who had that memorable face-off with Topuria, and veteran contender Justin Gaethje. Both have expressed interest in a title shot. But sources close to Gaethje's camp suggest he might be reconsidering his options. His manager recently hinted online that the fight game is a business and money talks.
Happy knockouts, I give you that respect, but you will never knock me out. I'm going to put my paws on you, I finish you. I finish you, little man. I finish you.
That was so good.
He's Conor McGregor, bro. That is going to be incredible.
The timeline is crucial. If Makhachev defeats Della Maddalena at UFC 322 this November, it sets the dominoes in motion. Both fighters could be champions heading into the White House event if Makhachev falls short. According to Topuria, the dream dies with it. We're looking at a carefully orchestrated plan here. Topuria is playing chess while others play checkers. This isn't just about two fighters anymore. The UFC White House event is being positioned as potentially the largest event in company history. Securing a matchup like Topuria versus Makhachev, if both hold titles, would be a coup.
Yeah.
Если спросить меня, мне, конечно, хочется за второй пояс подраться. Для меня, никому не секрет, тот парень, который сейчас 93, если в стойке с ним не заигрываться, для меня очень удобный соперник. Да, все говорят, он слишком мощный парень, но...
Khamzat Chimaev has just dropped a massive bombshell, directly challenging light heavyweight king Alex Pereira and claiming he's the perfect matchup for a historic two-division title showdown. But Pereira wants John Jones to win the heavyweight championship in the UFC White House.
Essa é a melhor aposta?
Não, queria super luta.
No, I want a super fight.
Oh, super fight at heavyweight.
I can think of one.
Wow,
name.
Derek Lewis. It's Aspinall, man.
Bom, não sei se Casa Branca, John Jones.
John
So you want
Jones.
super luta.
At the White House, John Jones. That's
okay.
a super fight.
All right, so he's
Just weeks after capturing the UFC middleweight championship with a dominant performance over Dricus du Plessis at UFC 319,